This episode is proudly supported by Fine Food Australia. It's only a few weeks until Fine Food Australia, the country's leading trade event for food service and hospitality, is back on in Sydney. As a professional in the food industry, you know the importance of staying ahead, discovering new trends, connecting with suppliers, and finding the inspiration to move your business forward. For over 40 years, Fine Food Australia has been the ultimate destination for chefs, restaurateurs, cafe owners, food retailers, and distributors alike. With over 900 exhibitors across 12 product categories, featuring both local and global brands, Fine Food Australia is where you'll find what's next, what's new, and what's driving the food industry forward. Make sure you register online before the 8th of September to secure free trade entry, so you don't have to pay $45 at the door. Don't miss Fine Food Australia on from the 8th to the 11th of September at ICC Sydney Darling Harbour. For more information, go to www.finefoodaustralia.com.au.
When you think sustainability, it's all about environment and sort of more holistic things. But the culture that we're building with our team is something that I'm very proud of, and it's very intentional.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Catering for large events and scaled business conferences can have its challenges, but how do you ensure sustainability is at the core of everything that you do as well, like reducing landfill, selective sourcing, and a means to cut emissions, all while pleasing everyone at the event too? Henri Turra is the owner of Radish Events, a B Corp-certified leader in sustainable catering. Henri, how are you?
Good. Thank you for having me. How are you?
It's good to get you on the show. You've got a very busy little boutique caterer there. How are things going at the moment?
Yeah, good. It's been a bit of a roller coaster of a year. June and July have been abnormally busy for us, which is great. Jan to May, not so much. So we're rolling with the punches, but definitely, headed towards a very busy season coming up.
Tell us a little bit about your business and the sort of events and functions that you guys do.
Yeah, so Radish, we are a boutique caterer. We tend to work with special events, what we call special events. So this would be your product launches, weddings, VIP dinners, that sort of thing. So whenever you need someone who really wants to impress or wants to put something special together, something different, that's when our clients come to us. We are, like you said, B Corp-certified, and sustainability is really at the forefront of what we do. So a lot of our clients care about that as well, whether they're trying to reduce their carbon emissions or they're just trying to show that they're working with more responsible suppliers. That seems to mean a lot to them too.
Well, there's a lot of elements to feeding a lot of people in larger events like that. But how do you bring sustainability into the practices that you have and still execute those businesses? Give us a sort of, do you have an example of an event or a way that you guys bring that into the everyday for you?
Yeah, so I tend to put it in three buckets. One is food waste, so controlling food waste as much as we can. And that goes all the way from the sales process and trying to educate clients and not over catering and trying to really find the best flow for events and what we should be bringing in, all the way to prep and using the most of ingredients, having a bit of a circular menu design, so using the byproduct of something to create a new dish, all the way to the waste at events, which is probably where we have the biggest amount of waste. In instances like, if you're catering for 100 packs party and then only 80 people show up, like what do you do with the leftovers? So zero waste or reducing waste is one of the big things. Carbon emissions reduction, so measuring and reducing, trying to understand where you can have the biggest impact is the sort of second big bucket. And the third one is ethical supply chain. So obviously we're a food business. If we talk about sustainability, we can't not talk about our supply chain. So really trying to look for suppliers and producers and growers that think like we think is a big part of that job. Yeah.
Is that challenging finding suppliers that fit in with your ethos and allow you to execute such big events as well? Does it have its challenges?
Yeah, it definitely does. I think one of the big ones is because there is not a lot of demand for some of the questions that we're asking a lot of our suppliers. So really trying to almost have an easy system to find suppliers that match, that are consistent, that have the volume, can get quite tricky. And we leverage tools like there's an app called the Good Fish seafood app, and it lists all seafood species in sort of a very easy green, amber, red, and we tend to use that for fish sourcing. So we try to use the resources that are available, but there isn't a lot. So we often find ourselves having to do our own homework and having to do our own sort of desktop research, which definitely doesn't make it easier for the chefs that are already very busy.
Does it have its challenges as well for some clients, like with the expectations and what they want and what you can deliver? Does that create challenges while maintaining that sustainability sort of course?
Yeah, it does. In most cases, I would say our clients are pretty flexible with working with us. And like a very practical example of this is, let's say if you have a wedding or an event and you have this menu that you chose with a certain fish, and then the week before or 2 weeks before when we're doing your ordering, that fish isn't available anymore. And when working with more sustainable species, that can often be the case. We then call the client to say, hey, this species isn't available. Can we swap for this other one? Most cases, people are pretty happy to do that because they're aware that we work this way. But we've gotten some clients who are like, we want this very specific thing, and it's something that we have committed to not serve. And ultimately, it can come down to we just can't do that event. So I guess that's the ultimate. Okay, if this is how you want it, we can't do this because it's outside of our commitment.
Hospitality businesses are renowned for very slim profit margins. Does that put pressure on that for you, given that some events you won't do from a standpoint of you? Does it put pressures on the bottom line for you in that sense?
It does put pressure on the bottom line, but I tend to not treat it differently to other parameters and frameworks. Like in hospitality, we're very used to working to very high standards of quality, of service, of excellence, and that has its own, set of what you could say is not the most efficient way. Like, if you're trying to prep a certain ingredient in a way that is portraying excellence and deliciousness, it might not be the quickest way to do it, but it's the best way to do it. So it's the same thing with sustainability. It's just a different parameter that we choose to abide by. And I guess like excellence, you can then, if you can show that in value, and then you can charge accordingly and say, okay, so we're doing this in a certain way. This is what it costs to do this in a certain way, to still protect our business from a financial point of view.
I want to talk about this a little bit more in greater detail shortly, but take us back to when you were young. Whereabouts did you grow up, and was food a big part of your life as a kid?
Yeah, I grew up in Brazil. I'm from a city called São Paulo. It's a very big city. And yeah, food. I mean, I didn't grow up in hospitality. My parents, my dad was always worked in corporate. I worked in corporate for the first 7 years of my career. So it's not like I grew in restaurants or in the hospo scene, but I always loved food. I just loved everything about it. I loved going to restaurants, reading books. In fact, I was dating my current wife at the time, girlfriend, and I remember she would come from a different city, and every date or going out for me was around food. And at some point she was like, can we do something that's not food related? Like we go to a park or something. And so that's when it also struck me like, oh yeah, I think, everything for me is around food. So definitely it's been in my life for a long time. And then I decided to move from Brazil to Australia to pursue that as well.
Tell us a little bit about food growing up. Is there any sort of dishes that you remember within your family that you can tell us about that really speak of where you're from?
Yeah, my mom wasn't a chef, but she was a great cook. I guess we have a bit of an Italian heritage. So there is that pride of, my mom makes the best this and that. there's a dish in Brazil called feijoada, which is it's a black bean stew. It's from it's from like a time where there were slaves and that slave culture in Brazil, and the slaves, the African slaves, would make this really hearty and heavy bean stew with just the leftovers of the pork bits and whatever they could have. And so it's just a really rich stew. And now it's one of the staples of my city, of São Paulo. And you eat it with sauteed kale and oranges and rices and everything in Brazil. So we would have that, at a special Sunday lunch, and it's the type of food that you eat and then you have to take a nap for 2 hours.
You mentioned about you made a move to Australia. What triggered that, and what was it like when you first got here?
I had been working, like I said, in corporate for the first half of my career, but I always felt that I wanted to get into food somehow. I didn't know what, if I wanted to have a restaurant or a cafe or a product or whatever it was. But at the time I was thinking about doing it. I was thinking about moving to Australia. I was dating at the time my current wife, and we just decided to come and have a bit of an experience. Australia at the time was very receptive to sort of coming here and trying things for a year. We came on a working holiday visa, and just kind of see what happens and change the direction of our careers. So I came here with that intention of trying to get into the food industry without really knowing what it would be like. Just reading about it and watching YouTube videos. I think back now I'm like, oh boy, I had no idea. And I came here and I started working at an Italian restaurant right away. I had made a list in Brazil of the places I wanted to try, and this was the top on my list. And it was funny, actually, I came over and handed my CV to the head chef at the time, and it was like marketing, finance, innovation. It's like, what do you want to do here? It's like, look, I'm happy to do whatever. I'm happy to wash the dishes. Like, I just want to be, I just want to be here. And somehow he gave me a gig as a casual on the main, doing the mains. No idea. But I guess I had a really I'm here to learn attitude, and that went down really well. And it was just really fun time, really exhausting for someone who's used to sitting in an office the whole life, to be standing up the whole day. I just remember my body going like, what the hell is going on here? But it was just amazing. And shortly after, I started working in this catering company at the time called Dan the Man Cooking. That was from 2017, and then in 2020, COVID and other things happened. Yeah.
Tell us about creating your own business. Where did that start, and what was that like, getting it up and running?
Yeah, actually, a very good continuation from the last one. So it was Dan the Man. I was working for that company, for that catering company, for about 3 years. Then 2020, COVID happened. The owners at the time decided they didn't want to keep going anymore, so they offered for me to take over. And in a split second, I said yes. It felt like it was just a natural progression. I was so ready for it at the time. I had already done all the delivery driving. I had acted as a chef. I had gone on events. I had done setups. I had worked in the office. So I sort of progressively worked every position in the company. By the time they said, do you want to take over? I was like, yeah, I know how to do all of it. So I took it over, and in the middle of COVID, this was October 2020. So I don't know. I still don't know if it was a very smart idea or a very reckless idea to buy a food company during COVID. But yeah, it worked out great. And I remember in the first few jobs, people kept asking me, so are you Dan from Dan the Man? So I was like, okay, I need to change the name. And we changed it to Radish Events. So it's been Radish Events since 2020, about, nearly 5 years now.
Before you changed the name and also obviously took over the company, were the sustainable practices entrenched in the business then, or is this something that you've brought into what you do there at Radish?
No, they were. And that's one of the things that drew me to the company as well, is they were really developing that size. It was already a B Corp. They had certified for the first time in 2017, which is just before I joined. So they were sort of in this journey to even understand what sustainability means to a catering company, to hospitality in general. So when I took over, I really just started taking that to the next level and thinking about, okay, how can we measure the things that we've been saying, that we've been doing? And that has become a very big part of how we approach sustainability, is really trying to put numbers to it and try to see our impact and try to measure it against ourselves. And yeah, there was, I guess, in any journey, so much more to it than what we thought back then.
If someone's starting out to look and go down the path that you've gone down with this sort of thing, is there a couple of tips in regards to making the catering company sustainable that you could share?
Yeah. I guess from a very top line perspective, I'd say the mentality that you need to have is understanding that the business doesn't operate in a vacuum. We're part of a community, we're part of a supply chain. We're going to have an impact whether you want it or not. So think about your employees, think about the suppliers that you use, the community. And I try not to get to, all planet Earth and we can save everything. In a more practical sense, is what impact does the things that we do, or the resources that we use, or the products that we put out have? So this could be, if I'm buying a certain fish or vegetable or meat from a supplier, have I checked to see how they're growing that, how they're fishing that, what methods are they using? Would I think it's ethical? And not even, don't need to get super technical with what that means, but am I comfortable? If I go to the farm and look around, am I comfortable with what I'm seeing? Does it make sense, or does it feel a bit like, I don't know if they're treating that, those animals in the way that I think is good. So it's asking those questions. It's being curious and trying to pull a thread and go a bit deeper than just following, whatever's given to you. And in the kitchen, for us, it started with, we're using a lot of Glad wrap. Can we get rid of Glad wrap or blue chucks or foil? Like looking at our bin, this is a great exercise. Look at your bin and try to see what is there. Like what's the biggest amount of weight? Like what's the 80-20? And you probably find 4 or 5 things that are the biggest contributors. Can you get rid of them? Can you swap it for something that's not disposable, for example? And this goes beyond just like, okay, we're gonna swap Glad wrap for beeswax wrap or for a compostable Glad wrap. It's really trying to think I've got this gastronome tray of prep that I did. Instead of wrapping it 17 times with Glad wrap, you can put a flat tray on top of it and put bull clips on the sides and to hold it. So it's trying to be a bit more inventive and creative with things. So back to the very easy way to start is have a look at your bin, try to figure out what's there and can you reduce it, and try to think of your business in a more holistically responsible way. Like what's the impact of what we're doing?
Fine Food Australia, which is an amazing food event that's on every year in Australia, is almost on again, and you'll be speaking at Fine Food Australia. Can you give us some insight on what you'll be talking about and maybe a little glimpse of that?
Yeah, so we'll be talking precisely about what the hell is sustainability in hospitality. What does it mean? And in a very practical, sort of no-nonsense way, I find that hospital owners are just busy, very busy people, and there's no time to be, philosophy and pondering a lot of things. So just really practical advice and practical ways to think about how to be a bit more responsible as a business, especially in a world, and this is to me, something that's very real, in a world where clients are going to be asking for it more and more. So if you're not doing it because you think it's the right thing to do, then do it because this is what the market will want, and is already wanting. A lot of our clients choose to work with us because of this. And soon it'll become more and more. So it's almost like future-proofing your business. So we'll talk about food waste, we'll talk about carbon emissions, we'll talk about supply chains, and we'll talk about what it means and how you can get started without feeling overwhelmed.
How important for you as an operator is a show like Fine Food Australia? What do you get out of it personally?
It's the biggest trade show in the hospital, and I think you go there and you see what's happening, like what are other people doing. It's almost like a way to make sure that you're not left out with what's going on. I was a speaker last year as well, and talking about food waste, and I just remember it was great to connect with other people. It was great to see what other people were doing and how it's similar to what we were doing. Or maybe they have tackled the same problems in a different way. Not to mention, it was also, for me as a speaker for the business, it gave us a bit more exposure. It allowed us to talk about a topic that we're very passionate about to people who maybe might have not started their journey yet. And hopefully we inspired someone to, start thinking a little bit differently.
It's been a couple of years now that you've had Radish Events. What's your day-to-day like, and what's the scale of the operations that you have with the business?
Yeah, so my day-to-day is very fluid around events, and it changes a lot. When in very busy season, we could be doing something like 10 times the volume of a low season month. So it changes quite drastically. And my schedule kind of goes around that. We're still a relatively small business. We do from very small events to larger events. And as a small business owner, I wear a lot of hats, as I'm sure a lot of business owners can relate. So whether it's, doing the marketing, going to a special event because we're doing some bespoke setup that I need to input in, or it's going to meet a new client that could potentially be a venue that's going to give us a lot of business, right down to, being at an event and running a food station and looking at people and serving our food and seeing their reaction. That's kind of like the fun part. To me, my favorite thing is running food stations, although they have a lot of logistics and they're not necessarily the chef's favorites. A lot of carrying of stuff. But yeah, it's very dynamic, and it's fun. And at the same time, it's very challenging. It's challenging to have a routine and, to have it be predictable.
You've done a lot of events, but is there a standout event or function that you've been part of that you can share with us?
Good question. Well, just last week, actually, this is probably my favorite thing to do. It was an event for the tenants in a building, a commercial building, and sort of all the tenants come down for a bit of a sunset party, if you will. So people are in the mood, they're happy, they know it's coming. And we had a few food stations set up. We had a cheese fondue station and a slider station and a sort of a sweets, a s'mores station. And I was there with the team and I was running the fondue station. It transported me back to when I was like 12 years old, and I would have cheese fondue with my auntie in Brazil. Like, it's like, would you have cheese fondue in Brazil? Like, who would? But it was really fun, and being able to do that now for people in a professional way, almost feel like it feels like I'm cheating. Like, this shouldn't really be a job. But being able to serve people in that way and see people happy and still be able to execute what we believe is the right standard for sustainability and how we approach it and food waste and all that sort of thing is really something. So coming back from that and going, all right, like that was great. We got great feedback. We stuck to what we believe in. It just feels amazing. Yeah.
Has your experience in the corporate world helped you running a hospitality business?
It's an interesting question. I think it definitely helps. So when I used to work in corporate, I went from finance to marketing to product development. So I got to see different sides of what it takes to operate a business, especially the financial side. So that helps me a lot in running the business. I'm not a chef by trade. I act as a chef sometimes, but I'm not the one, creating the dishes. We have a fantastic head chef that does all of that. But being able to run all the other sides, the strategic planning and finances and HR and hiring, marketing, that I draw a lot on my corporate background for that. But the other side of it is I feel like a bit of an outsider from our senses, right? I came from overseas. I didn't come from the hospitality industry. So often I will tackle challenges without the bias of this is how it's always been done. So it gives me fresh eyes, and sometimes I'll come up with an idea that works really well. Sometimes it'll take me years to learn something that's so obvious to everybody else. And there's a few examples of that where I'm like, oh man, I wish somebody had told me that like 2 years ago. This is so much easier. Yeah.
What does your family think about what you've created here in Australia?
Today they're very proud. But when I left Brazil and I left a very comfortable job and comfortable life, my parents were definitely not happy. They were like, "You what? Like you're leaving all of this to go to Australia, which is like the other side, literally the other side of the world, to go explore food." Yeah, sounds like an amazing plan. But now they look at what we've done and they can see it. And my mom came here to visit, and she was looking around, and she was like, "Yeah, okay."
You took a giant leap of faith to leave your home country and come to Australia and immerse yourself in food somehow, and you didn't know what it was going to be. What sort of impact has it had on you? Has it changed you, this sort of dive into hospitality that you've taken?
Yeah, it definitely has. It's, I guess in a way, proven to me that, I can do it. We can do it. I've had amazing support from my wife, to go through it and to go through periods that were really hard, and that you're looking ahead and thinking, how am I going to do this? Like, I don't know how to do this. How am I going to figure this out? But being able to leave the country, leave our comfort zone and come here and just figure it out has been massively, just a fun experience, but also proving to us like, okay, if we want to do it, we can do it.
Catering for large numbers and getting it right is a tricky thing. What sort of advice would you have on getting an evening right for people for a catered event?
The best thing to do is to really ask a lot of questions of the clients about what the audience is like, what the guests are like, what the flow of the event's like, what they're trying to accomplish, to inform really how much food we should bring and how it should be structured and when it should go out and in what format. We're talking about, should we have a static station or should we have canapes being passed around? Should we have, the canapes kick off first and the setup later, or the other way around? Should we have more staff because the room is a bit weird and we need to make sure the food gets to certain corners, or are we okay just having a tighter team? So all these things influence how the outlet of food is going to work on the day. But then it's also, I guess, being aware and acknowledging the fact that we just can't always get it right. And sometimes, people will invite, like I said, 150 people and only 100 will show up. And then it doesn't matter how much planning you've done. It just all goes down the drain. So having systems to be ready for that is, I think, the most challenging part and also the most impactful part. So something that we've started doing is we started designing our food, let's say canapes, in a way that we can take components of what we're going to serve sealed. So like, to take a very easy example, let's say we're serving a slider. We can take, let's say, 30% of the meat vacuum packed, and it goes in an insulated box. When we get there, it goes straight in the fridge. And if they don't have the numbers, we can bring it back and we can use it. As long as it's within health and safety requirements, we can use it again. So that is probably the best way to reduce waste, and it's also a massive injection to our bottom line. Like you're basically using food that's already been covered to something else. But it takes really trying to think of the menu in that way. Because otherwise you just take everything and then whatever is not eaten has to go in the bin because it can't get picked up, and that's where you waste the most amount of food.
Well, you've created an amazing business there. What do you love about what you do?
I love everything about it. I love the food. we have staffies every day that our chefs very generously prepare to the whole team, and that it's such a spoil to be able to have that every day. I love being able to go on site and go to service and serve people and see their reaction and see that they love it as much as we do. It's almost like it's good, right? I know, it's so good. And I just love the culture that we've been able to build in the team as well, because that's another very important part of sustainability. We don't really talk about it much. When you think sustainability, it's all about environment and sort of more holistic things. But the culture that we're building with our team is something that I'm very proud of, and it's very intentional. And it's, I guess, again, as an outsider coming into an industry that there is so much passion and so much love for the craft, and such talented people, and to see that in so many venues there's still, let's say, a less than ideal culture, that people struggle with what they're doing with their bodies and their mental health. It just feels like it's not fair for such a amazing industry. And that's sustainability as well. That's thinking about how we go about it, how we put boundaries around our business and allow our people to thrive and for them to feel realized as well. It's something that it's not just about putting it on the website that we have a happy team. It's everyday decisions to, okay, let's talk about this. Like, what does this mean for you guys, and how would we do it? I try to have a really transparent and open way to bring the team in and say, okay, look, this is what we have to do as a business. How can we, match that with what each of you want to get out of this job or out of this thing?
Well, it's inspiring stuff, mate. It's an absolute honor to have you on Deep in the Weeds today, to hear just a part of your story. Looking forward to the chat at Fine Food Australia, and look forward to seeing where you take Radish Events from here.
Thanks so much, Huck.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Stay tuned as we take a deep dive into the lives of the incredible people who ply their trade in the food and hospitality sector. Special thanks to executive producer Rob Locke for making this all happen. Follow us on Instagram at Deep in the Weeds Podcast, or email us at podcast@deepintheweeds.com.au. Thanks to executive producer Rob Locke for making this all happen. Stay safe and be well.